Thank you so much for staying with us here on First Look. Time for information session. It's an interview this morning, a live interview to be held via Zoom with the chairperson of the DCash pilot project. Of course, it's an ECCB digital currency program all across the ECCU, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. We're speaking to the chairperson, who's Sharmyn Powell, live from St. Kitts Nevis this morning. Ms. Powell, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us here on First Look.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, great. Let's delve straight into things because it's coming up on a year. I think it was March last year when we first launched DCash. Just give us your overall assessment of how the launch has gone so far in the different Caribbean territories.
The pilot has been mixed. We have had some successes, we've had some delays, we've had some setbacks. So in terms of successes, so we have so far been able to launch in 7 of our 8 ECCU countries. So we launched initially in Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts and Nevis in March last year. Then we launched in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in August of last year, and we launched in Dominica and Montserrat in November of last year. And we're preparing now to launch in Anguilla in February. So in terms of rolling out, we were able to successfully roll out in 7 of our 8 member countries. In terms of the uptake, so we've had mixed results across the countries, and that has been for a number of reasons. Main issue being the COVID pandemic, where a number of our efforts in terms of marketing and even the rollout process has been hampered by the various waves that we've had in terms of COVID cases. Notwithstanding, though, we've seen increases in usage across our member countries. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines in particular, we've had significant uptake there in terms of merchants and end users. And in terms of usage of DCash, it has picked up slowly over the year. Now, last year, our efforts were focused mainly on rolling out DCash, getting DCash into the countries. And for 2022, our efforts will now be focused on our marketing in terms of ramping up DCash, making DCash more visible, and making DCash a household name. So we expect to see in 2022 a significant increase in the usage of DCash as we increase our customer base as well as our merchant base.
Excellent. DCash, a very catchy name. Do you think enough people around the region understand what digital currency is all about, and what has ECCB done in order to sensitize people to what it actually entails?
The knowledge base is mixed, and we recognize that we have to improve and increase our public education and awareness. So that is going to be a main feature of our marketing thrust for this year, where we're going to do a lot more public education and awareness so persons can understand the whole concept of a central bank digital currency and how it can be beneficial to them, how it can be used, and therefore encourage them to use the DCash. So we are going to spend more time on the public education, and our messages will be different based on our audience. So we're going to craft different messages based on the audience that we're trying to reach and the subsection of the public that we're trying to reach. So public education is still required, and we're going to be doing much of that in this year.
You think there'll be much of a focus on the younger generation? I think they're more savvy. I'm not sure what your marketing plans will entail, your promotional activities, because the older heads like mine, I'm not sure that we are as knowledgeable about these types of currencies.
So the younger generation will be easy to understand. So that's why I said we will craft our messages. So we do want to reach the entire population. So we will be reaching out to the young, the middle-aged, the old, because surprisingly, we have a lot of older persons who are very tech-savvy or who have been using technology more in recent times. And so we want to make sure that we're able to reach everyone, and therefore our messaging will cover all persons.
Great. Going back to how you pretty much praised St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the uptake of usage of DCash in that country. I would have thought that being on the ground in St. Kitts Nevis, there would have been a little more acceptance there. What's the situation like on the ground in St. Kitts Nevis?
We had a bit of a setback in St. Kitts and Nevis in that one of our main financial institutions had some challenges in terms of coming on board, and so that has been the main hindrance towards the larger usage, the greater usage of DCash in St. Kitts and Nevis. However, that has since been rectified. In recent times, COVID-19 has been the deterrent in St. Kitts and Nevis, but we hope to see a big turnaround in this new year as we roll out and we add more financial institutions in St. Kitts and Nevis as well.
And in terms of the Antiguan landscape, what have been your findings here? I'm not sure if you have much information on it. What's it been like in Antigua?
For Antigua and Barbuda, I think our what we have to focus on is expanding our merchant base. So we have 3 financial institutions in Antigua and Barbuda. And so we have that coverage in terms of financial institutions. However, we have to spend more time now in terms of expanding our merchant base so that persons have avenues to spend the DCash once they have access to it. We had some delays due to COVID in Antigua, where throughout the year last year they had some waves where you had lockdowns, you had restricted movement, and that kind of hampered our efforts there. But we plan to redouble our efforts across all the countries, including Antigua and Barbuda, and particularly focus on expanding the merchant base, which we have recognized that is a critical aspect, because persons are asking, where can I spend the DCash once I have it? So we have to make sure that not just merchants, but the critical merchants, the ones that persons spend most at, supermarkets, gas stations, pharmacies, bakeries, those sorts of establishments where persons tend to spend their disposable income. We'll be focusing on bringing those on board in this year.
And in terms of the benefits for consumers, because we have a very large audience, very wide viewership, how would you convince them that DCash is the way to go?
Well, in this environment, we'll start with that. We have the need for contactless payment. DCash offers that option because you don't have to touch. You basically scan and pay. So you have that option where you can actually make payments without having to have physical interaction. You can also make payments remotely. So where persons now have to go and stand in a line to pay bills or make other payments, they can actually stay at home and make those payments. DCash also offers peer-to-peer payment or person-to-person payment, where you can send funds quite easily in 3 to 5 seconds. You can send funds from yourself to another person with a DCash wallet, whether they're physically in Antigua, Barbuda, or anywhere across the ECCB, or for that matter, anywhere in the world where a person is that has a DCash wallet, you can transfer funds quite easily. So whereas persons may say, well, I can pay with my debit card or credit card, but you can't transfer funds from yourself to somebody else with a debit card or credit card. You can do that with DCash, and it's faster. It's 3 to 5 seconds that the transfer is done. You have your transaction history in DCash. So when you compare DCash to, say, physical cash, where you may go to the ATM, withdraw physical cash, and you spend the money and you have a difficult time trying to figure out how your money was spent. With DCash, you have a transaction history that is in your application. And so you can go back at any time and see exactly how your money is spent. And that can help significantly in financial management, because then you can make adjustments where necessary. DCash is also good for our small business owners and for those persons who are in the informal sector. Very often they don't have financial records, and so they're running a business. The business may be profitable, but because they don't have proper financial records, they're not able to actually show their profitability, and very often they try to seek financing and they have no records. DCash allows them now to create financial records based on the transaction history, and that too can help them to improve their business. So these are some of the benefits that you have from using DCash. And of course, it's safer. You don't have to worry about stealing or losing your money. With DCash, even if you lose your device, your phone that your wallet is stored on, your money is safe. It remains safe, and once you get a new device, you can access your funds.
And talk us through the process, Ms. Powell. If I go into a bank that's a participating financial institution, how do I then enroll in the DCash system?
Right, so you don't have to actually physically go in. Once you download the app to your device, and there's an option to sign up with a code. If you're going to sign up with your financial institution, there's a code that your financial institution can send you. You can actually request that code through the app. The app is actually your digital wallet. And then once you get that code, you do the online process. You do the application through the app. So you include your name, your telephone number, your email address, and your account number at that financial institution. Now, once that information is submitted through the app, it goes to your financial institution, which you will have selected through the app. The financial institution, once they get that information, they use your account number to now verify your identification and your information, because they already have your information there as their customer. So once they're verified, they approve your application, and your wallet is now active to use. So you can now actually send a message to the bank to transfer funds from your account, the same account that you would have identified in the application, You send a secure message to your bank to transfer funds from your account to your wallet, and you can spend, or you can go to an agent or a merchant teller that does exchange, and you can actually have them, you take physical cash and they can actually convert that physical cash and put the digital cash in your wallet. So it's a very simple process to actually get an active DCash wallet.
Seems simple enough, and I think I might want to try that out later today, if I'm being totally honest. The advantages as you're listing them are innumerable, so I think it's something that I myself would want to look into. But some people would use the terms DCash, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin interchangeably, thinking they're one and the same. How do you go about differentiating them for people?
So firstly, DCash is a central bank digital currency. It's backed by the central bank reserve. So you have the same confidence, the same parity, the same exchange rate as your physical cash. Whereas with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoins, etc., they're not backed by any assets. So that is why they're so volatile. That is why the value changes from minute to minute, because there's no backing. There is no recourse if, for example, you have a loss of transaction. There is no recourse. There is no central authority. There's no governing body. It's basically based on the persons who are involved in the blockchain on what you call consensus. So it's very different. There is not that legal backing. And of course, with the DCash, there is no volatility. Your value of DCash today is the value of DCash 5 days from now, 10 days from now, a month, a year from now, because it is backed by the central bank reserves. It has the same characteristics for the most part as a physical currency, except it's not physical, it's actual virtual or digital. With cryptocurrencies, that is not the case. It's basically, you have the value now, but because of its volatility, the value can change in a minute. I know persons who have lost millions in cryptocurrencies because of that volatility in the market, and that's because there is no backing, there is no central backing, there are no reserves or anything that is behind that currency, so that the value is not quote unquote real as per a central bank digital currency.
And I'm glad you cleared that up. Now, how does this DCash fit into the overall strategy of the ECCB? I know the governor would have been talking about lots of strategic plans for the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, but how does DCash fit into that overall plan?
So DCash speaks to our strategic objective of financial inclusion. What we want to ensure that as the region moves towards digital transformation, where we're trying to digitize our economies, making things easier, making the ease of doing business, improving, the ease of doing business. Financial inclusion is important. There are persons in the region who don't have a bank account because sometimes they just don't meet the minimum requirements for a bank account. Or they do have a bank account, but because of certain restrictions, they can't enjoy the full financial benefits or the financial services that are offered by financial institutions. And so they are more or less barred from being able to participate in certain type of transaction. Now, if you're going to move to the whole digital thrust, the whole digital transformation, it is important that our people, all our citizens, are able to participate in that financial and that digital landscape. So the DCash is aimed at putting that tool in the hands of every citizen where they can participate in digital financial transactions. So one of our big objectives for this project is financial inclusion. We also look at the whole idea of payment system efficiencies. We see that in our financial system, some payments take 3 to 5 days. If you write a check, it takes 3 to 5 days to clear in some instances. If you want to send funds across the countries of the region, sometimes a wire transfer takes 2 to 3 days, and the cost of doing that is prohibitive in a number of instances. And so those are some of the inefficiencies that we have seen that we want to address through this particular intervention, DCash. And then ultimately, we are looking at economic growth in the region. We look at innovation, and competitiveness. And you can build competitive if you have a platform whereby persons can transact quite easily, because then you have the market automatically expands. If I can send funds to Grenada or Antigua in 3 to 5 seconds for a particular product, then automatically that vendor's market expands, and they can now send the goods to me in St. Kitts. And of course, alongside that, you have to look at the other areas that need to be improved. But DCash is providing that payment platform to promote digital transformation.
True. Now, you've spoken about the benefits for the consumer, the individual, the benefit to the business owner, the merchant. Why would a financial institution become involved in the DCash program?
Well, firstly, the cost of handling physical cash is extremely high. You have to have transportation and logistic costs, and you have insurance costs. So the banks currently would have to be spending quite a bit in terms of handling of physical cash. So by having less physical cash and more digital cash, then you have less to spend on the insurance costs, etc., and transportation costs. Then you have the whole issue of efficiencies. Now, currently, I'm very often you see the bank lines are very long. Persons line up in the bank halls to withdraw cash from their accounts, or even the ATM lines. They have long ATM lines for persons to withdraw cash. And so the banks have to spend time stocking the ATMs, and they have to have sufficient tellers in the bank to be able to serve their customers. Even in terms of merchant deposits who do night banks, they have to have staff who sits down and counts bundles of cash from night bank deposits. Now, if you move to DCash, if you have more DCash transactions, it means less persons in the banking halls, because persons can now just send a message and get DCash transferred from their account to their wallet without going to the bank. You have less physical cash to come from merchants, because they will now just have their wallet and transfer seamlessly from their wallet to their account at the bank. And then ultimately, you can use DCash as a building block, as a platform to offer additional financial services to your customers. Because ultimately, what we see in the long term is that whereas currently ECCB is the one who actually provides the DCash wallet, we expect that in the long term, financial institutions can actually provide a DCash wallet branded with their own branding and provide new services to their clients. So there are quite a number of benefits, and a number of the financial institutions that are on board with us have identified that, have indicated that, they see the benefits. They can see how they can use this to build. They can actually see this how they can to bring in new customers. And ultimately, if you look at globally, a thriving financial system, a thriving payment system, is hinged on multiple channels of payments, multiple payment channels. So you have to have to reach everybody, to reach all the persons in the payment system. It is important that you have different options, because it's not a one size fits all. And so when you have those payment systems that are actually successful, that are actually thriving, in particular in the larger countries, you see they have multiple channels of payment methods operating alongside each other. So we want to get to that place where we can have this these options available, and persons can choose the ones that are most appropriate at the point in time to make payments. And the financial institutions play a key role in that.
Yeah, I'm listening to the explanation about less insurance, and I'm thinking less manpower as well, because you don't need as many people to be manning telestations and counting bundles of cash.
And you can now channel those persons into more into other areas where you can get more benefits and more for the institution.
Excellent. All right, look, could you just encapsulate for us? We're coming to the end of our interview, Ms. Powell. I know you're rolling out into Antigua, you said, in February of this year. Just encapsulate for us what the rest of your plans would be for the rest of this year as we look forward to DCash further rolling out in the region.
So, alongside the work in Anguilla, we'll be actually reintroducing our marketing campaign. So we'll actually be doing a lot more public education, a lot more awareness. We'll be having promotions, we're having incentive programs. We're basically going to be doing a massive DCash rollout. It's almost like a reintroduction, because there has been somewhat of a lull, as I indicated, because we have been focusing on the rollout. We're also going to be looking at how we can improve DCash. One of the key areas of this project is the feedback. We solicit feedback continuously from our users, both the individuals, merchants, financial institutions, to see how we can improve DCash. And so as we go through, we will be making enhancements to the product to make it more user-friendly, to give a better user experience. And then importantly, one of the areas we're going to be looking at as well is the whole idea of integrating DCash with banking systems. Currently, because there's no integration, you have two separate systems running, which so for example, we as persons in some instances would like to use their mobile banking or their internet banking to transfer funds seamlessly. That is not the case for all the banks because of the separation between two systems. And that is because we're still in the pilot phase, we're still testing. However, we intend to test that integration so that persons can now have an even better experience, user experience through that integration. So those are some of the plans we have on board in terms of where we're taking DCash. We also have we will start to explore the whole idea of cross-border, because we've had a lot of questions, a lot of queries as we go around in terms of persons in the diaspora who would like to send funds at home to persons at home, And so that whole issue of the conversion between foreign currency and DC. So those are some of the areas we'll be looking at. Of course, that's long term, but for the immediate, it's about getting DCash out there, getting the word out there, getting persons to use DCash habitually, and really take DCash to the next level.
All right, Ms. Powell, always very knowledgeable, and it shows that you love what you do. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right, thanks so much. So that was Sharmyn Powell. She is the chairperson of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's DCash pilot project, taking the time out of St. Kitts Nevis to talk to us about, it's almost a year now that DCash has been rolled out in several of the ECCU member territories. All right, we're going to take a break here on First Look. Come back to wrap with a look at the headline stories that made news, and then meet our co-hosts sitting on the couch.